When you're feeling a flight response within your body, do you want to know how to handle it? I've had a lot of experience with this kind of fear, and I've gotten pretty good at recognizing how it shows up in my life. I'd like to tell you about how this has significantly impacted my life and how I have dealt with it so that you can learn to use the flight response when you need to or transition out of it when you don't. So first of all, I'll tell you why my flight response is so strong and why I'm so familiar with it. When I was a little kid, from the age of 4 to 8, I suffered severe abuse from a teenager that lived in my home for about 4 years, right? And it impacted me so significantly because I was rewarded if I could escape this predator. He would seek me out in any place he could when I was alone, and he would attack me. And there were rules to the engagement. If I could escape, he would let me go. I'd be free for the rest of the day. So my first instinct when seeing something that was terrifying was to run, because that was the first avenue to safety. The next thing was that if I could piss him off or make him laugh with something extremely crass or rude that came out of my mouth at my little age, it would pause him and he would be like, okay, I'll let you go. That was a good comment. The third thing was if I could hurt him. As he came close, if I could kick him in the shins, hit him in the nose, little things like that. He was actually a real weak coward. I didn't know that as a little boy, but as a little kid, if I could somehow hurt him, he would let me go. It was very, very unlikely once he got that close that I could. So this is why fear became something that I was so familiar with. I was exposed to it a lot by this guy. And flight was my top one. Get the hell out of there, right? If you feel like your fear response is to move, to get antsy, to get out, to get flushed, learn to recognize how it appears in your body. Listen to what it's telling you. Listen to what it is scared of and recognize if this is something you need to run from or run at. And there's a difference in that, right? There is a difference. And the fear is when you run from it. Excitement is when you run at it. So maybe your confusion of what you're learning, what you're experiencing, all the things that are hitting you are moving you into a flight response when what you need is to fight, or what you need is excitement. So you can play, understand what that is, and then you can transition. The next thing is admit your fear and move toward it. If you can admit that I'm scared, I know that this is hitting me, that opens the door for you to then move toward what it is that's scaring you. That changes your ability to process the wisdom that that fear is telling you in your body. It's saying, be alert, watch out. Maybe you're being told to be alert to a situation that is from your past, something that scared you and worried you, but is no longer an issue now. So you can let it go. Maybe this is a situation you need to run from, and then you can run. But that ability to recognize that quickly and be in the motion comes from practice. Iterations of when fear hits you, tapping into your body, recognizing you're scared, and seeing, what is this telling me? What is it that I'm trying to run from? What am I scared of? This will help you. If you have deep, deep fear that is more significant than something that you can just process yourself because of trauma or life experiences that have happened to you, there's help for you from therapists. EMDR is an excellent process for people that have PTSD from fear. Amazingly helpful. Meditation is incredibly good. Yoga. There's all sorts of modalities that you can use to help shake the trauma from your body. I would highly recommend reading a book by Dr. Bessel van der Kolk called The Body Keeps Score. He is probably one of the foremost researchers in trauma recovery therapy and has been a deep resource that I have relied on in my life to overcome the triggers and things that I face in fear that have inhibited my ability to progress. And then after you have done all these things, be patient with yourself as you navigate these waters. Keep trying. You're not going to be perfect. There are times you will fall into a flight response when it is not meant to be a time for you to fly. There are times when you may decide, I don't need a flight response, when you did. I don't know, but I know you'll fail because I do all the time. But each time you fail and offer yourself kindness and patience and look at why you failed, this becomes the learning opportunity that will build your emotional intelligence and your capacity to face a situation similar to that again and meet the challenge head on. These are powerful things that I hope you can keep trying. So I'm going to tell you a situation what I was in when I was a kid. I was always into stuff. I was a really mischievous kid. I probably should have been in juvie. If I'd have grown up in this day and age, I wouldn't have made it through the regular school systems. But back then, at least where I was, they let us get away with a lot. But I was out throwing things at cars with my friends. It was late at night. I had a paper route that I delivered early in the morning, but if I was going to have a sleepover at my friend's house, I would stay up late. They would arrive, the papers, at about 9:30 or 10 o'clock, and I would deliver them that night. And then I could go have a sleepover and not worry about having to wake up early to deliver papers on a Saturday morning. So I had been out delivering papers with my buddy, and then at the end of it, we decided to throw some rocks at cars. And we were hiding, throwing rocks and hitting them and laughing. And we actually threw, it wasn't rocks, but chestnuts, little chestnuts we threw at a guy on a motorbike. I'm not trying to justify that this was a good thing. It wasn't. And it clearly hurt this guy, right? Getting pegged by chestnuts as you're riding your motorbike at 25, 30 miles an hour is not going to feel good, even if you're wearing leather, which thank goodness he was. Anyway, this guy circled around and decided to try to find us. And he's bombing around. And at some point, I think we realized we're done. We had to get out of there. And we went to the back of this house and we're walking up this alleyway. And there in front of us is a man with a helmet under his arm walking toward us. And my friend almost turned and took off. As he was turning, I grabbed his arm and I held him next to me. Because I knew that this was not a physical danger situation. And that running in that moment was a sign of guilt. I was not going to run. And I had been through altercations so violent at that point that I knew this was not one of them. I knew that this was trouble, but running was not going to serve me. Because I had been so familiar with that instinct to run, and when in the moment I saw him and that instinct kicked in, run, I changed to fight. And it calmed me to meet this man. And I looked at him and I was like, I actually pretended he was one of my customers that I delivered papers to. And I said, "Mr. Dixon, is that you? I just finished delivering your paper." And this guy comes up, he grabs me by the arms. He's like, "You threw rocks at me. I was riding my bike. I know it was you." And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. No, I have a paper out. I was just out delivering papers with my friend. We're having a sleepover." And he's not buying it yet. My friend's looking at me and I was like, "Who's throwing?" Like, we just played dumb. And he's like, "Well, where are you delivering papers?" And I just said, "Well, I just finished this last house here." And it was one of my customers right behind me. I said, "We just finished here and we're coming home." And I said, "We want to go knock on her door and we can ask?" So we go to her door and you can see the paper that I have delivered is in, she had one of those open slots in the doorway. It was still in there. And I was terrified to have to knock on her door and wake her up, because she was asleep, I think, at this point. She was an older woman. And I lift my finger to ding the doorbell, and I'm thinking the gig is going to be up if she comes to the door. And I was just terrified. And right when I'm about to press the button, the guy says, No. You're right. You are delivering papers. I can see that. I'll let you go." And he walked away. And me and my friend collapsed there on the doorstep with relief that we had escaped what was for sure going to be a buttload of punishment from our parents for doing what we had done, particularly throwing chestnuts at a man on a motorbike to hurt him like that. Oh my gosh, we were going to be in so much trouble, and we escaped it. And I'm not telling you this story to be proud of the fact that I got myself out of trouble, but to tell you that even in a high intensity situation where my buddy that was with me, who had not experienced that much fear, was ready to just take off. It was astonishing. I was so grateful that he had remained quiet. Man, we escaped. And I transitioned my instinct of flight, of just taking off and running away, into one of standing in the presence of this fear and taking it on when I needed to, because that was what served me best in that moment. And it got me out of some serious trouble. I can't really think. I mean, I guarantee there are situations in my life with work where I have felt the need to run or change or get out of there. And I've been able to see quickly, this is not going to serve me, and change my tactics. But it's come from years of practice of recognizing that my flight response is in me, and then admitting that this fear is something that I can transition or work through if I need to, and using it if I want, or transitioning it to a different action. Because fear has nuances to it. It also has capacities to be metabolized and turned to excitement if you can engage it properly with curiosity and not allow it to overwhelm you. In that space, it becomes a power. It becomes better than a survival tool. It becomes a tool of performance. If you want to make flight a tool of performance to use it when it serves you best, dig into these things. Understand where your body is responding so that you can sense when it's going to overtake you and make that transition early on. Practice using meditation. Practice EMDR if you need help. Practice the modalities that will help you move out of that space of fear into a place that will serve you better for the situation that you're in. Or you will be able to say, I need to run right now. Right? And honestly, when that man approached me, he didn't grab me, and I was ready to run. If my little gig with this shtick of who I am delivering papers that night wasn't going to work, I was ready to run. And I would have run as hard as I could, and I wouldn't have run home either. I'd have run somewhere else and seen if he could catch me. But at the moment that I needed it, it was there for me to use, but I got rid of it when it was going to not serve me. I hope you can see the nuance of that situation. It's a silly little story, but you can use it in many ways to serve you. My name is James, and this is how I do it. Thanks for joining me.